All right. Let's see here. I'll give people a second to come in, and then we'll do an audio check. Poor lighting here. I haven't done a live stream from this position before. Let's see here. That's good. All right, that'll work. All right, give me a thumbs up if you can hear audio. Hey, Jose. Hey, Ash. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, look at you all coming in. Let me share this over to my page. I'm not going to be organized in this talk. You can all hear me? Hey, Patrick. Hey, Mark. I'm going to just kind of talk about some of the ideas of what I think is going on. I'm still putting things together. Obviously, everyone is. But I'll give you some idea of my methodology here. Hey, Samuel. Hey, Grace. I haven't looked at the theories at all. In fact, I don't even know what the police theory is or the FBI theory is. I don't have an interest. And the reason for that is I don't want to be colored. I don't want to be manipulated, by all the other theories that are out there. So I'm not interested in you giving me other people's theories. What I am interested in is any evidence you might have and challenges that you can bring to my theory. I'm not interested in what everyone else has to say, okay? Because then you start getting distorted. Then I start connecting dots that I wouldn't have, and I don't find that helpful. So those of you that have followed me for a while know that I'm pretty good at connecting the dots. So let's begin with what I think has happened here, and I'm not set on this. I'm not saying I believe any of this is what happened, but looking at the evidence that we do have on hand, if you've got questions, put them in the comments below. I want you to challenge my theory, okay? I just don't want you posting a link, hey, go watch what this other person has to say about it. I'm not interested. But if you've got a challenge to my theory, I need to hear it. That's what I want. So I want evidence, and I want challenges to my theory. So when this first happened, I said that there was a possibility, and it's still on my Facebook, that there is a possibility that this was actually the first shots fired in a new civil war. I think that is a very realistic possibility. My thoughts right now, and really I'm just giving you what I'm leaning towards, my thoughts right now is that I'm leaning towards that this was actually, the killers, the murderers, the shooters, were actually Antifa. Now they may not be, and I'm totally open to that. People want to say it's ISIS, but I'm having a lot of trouble finding a motivation for ISIS to have done this, for them to be in that position. The FBI would not be hiding that information if they knew about it. If it was ISIS, they'd be saying so, because we want all the reason we can to, be attacking ISIS, maintaining our presence in the Middle East. I think it's far more likely that this was actually Antifa stepping up their game. They've said November 4th was when they are going to announce or initiate war. All right, that November 4th is the beginning of a new communist revolution in this country. And so I think that is a very real possibility, and I think it might have started here. So let's picture this. Antifa have made contact with a known gun runner, Stephen Paddock. I don't think there's any doubt that Stephen Paddock has been running guns for most of his life. I think this is his career. Stephen Paddock buys guns. He has them modified by somebody that lives in the area, modified and converted into fully automatic assault weapons, fully automatic machine guns. I shouldn't use assault weapons, silly term. The sounds that are coming from the video clips don't appear to be bump stocks. And although some of the guns may have had bump stocks, the fire that we're hearing in the video clips sounds too rhythmic. It's too frequent for it to have been a bump stock. And there have been people that shoot with bump stocks that have also chimed in and said that That doesn't sound like fire from a bump shot, from a bump stock. It sounds like fire from a fully automatic machine gun. Okay, so Stephen Paddock has probably spent the last 20 years of his life using his previous contacts and employment working for aerospace and defense companies, where he would have amassed a great deal of knowledge and contacts. And the guy is a genius. He has a very high IQ. We know this. This is a fact. And so he knows how to do things cleverly. And he's been running guns out of hotels for a very, very long time. And he sells these guns to people. They come up to his room and they buy the guns and they leave. And then he launders all of this money through the slot machines in the hotel. The hotels, they actually don't have a very high loss rate. So if you know how all those slot machines work, he wasn't playing cards, he was playing slot machines, right? Nobody makes money on the slots. You always lose. So, but it doesn't matter. If you're laundering money, doesn't matter if you're losing a percentage, that's the cost of doing business, right? So Stephen Paddock is just going through one of his normal runs, but this time, well, this time it's not so normal, it's a little bit different. And there's two possibilities here. Either Stephen Paddock sets the cameras up for each transaction, and this is his modus operandi, and he's done this all the time. Or this time, Stephen Paddock has been caught by the FBI, and the FBI has set up a sting operation in exchange for immunity or leniency, and they set up the cameras. The buyers come to the room, and outside the room we know that there was a tray, a service tray, a trolley that you know, the service people are bringing up food to the room, and there was a camera mounted on that cart. Now it appears the buyers may have seen that camera and perhaps not used to, maybe they're not the normal typical buyers who probably expect that there's going to be cameras there for the seller's own protection, but maybe not Antifa, because these are not your normal terrorists. These are not your normal people that are trying to buy guns for organized crime around the country, mafia organizations, gangs, you know, all of these kinds of things. But instead, these are almost regular Joes, and they notice the camera. That concerns them greatly. They come into the room, and there is an altercation that takes place, and they shoot Stephen Paddock. One thing I'm fairly certain of is that Stephen Paddock was not the shooter, and that he was dead before the shooting took place. And from what I can see right now from all of the evidence, the reason that we're having such a problem with finding any motivation, any motivation for the shooting by Stephen Paddock, any MO in his history that shows any irregularities that would suggest that he was unstable or about to conduct this shooting. There's absolutely nothing. The greatest mystery, how could a lone gunman who's been planning this for so long, of course it looks like he's been planning it because he sells guns all over the country through the casinos. How could a man who has been planning this for so long not leave a trail that he's about to do this? Nothing whatsoever, right? Not one single scrap of evidence, because he wasn't the shooter. And even though he brought all the guns up into the room, even though they were his guns, he wasn't planning to kill anybody. He was just selling guns, right? He was just a businessman. And so these people come into the room. Again, if you just joined us, I speculate maybe it was actually Antifa. I don't think it was ISIS. It doesn't fit the MO of ISIS. If it was ISIS, they wouldn't have said Stephen Paddock was the guy. They would have said it was our own glorious messengers of Allah who came and did it. And they wouldn't have just fired a few rounds and left. They would have stayed and exhausted their supply of guns and ammunition and done the maximum damage and shot their way out of the hotel, and they would have gone down in a blaze of glory, right? That's exactly what an Islamic terrorist would have done. That didn't happen. So I think we can rule out that this was ISIS. I also think think that Samuel just said, why were 2 windows shot out? And this is probably the strongest piece of circumstantial evidence that leads me to believe that Stephen Paddock was, at the very least, not the only shooter or not one of the shooters at all. And for this simple reason. If we go on what the Sheriff's Department and the FBI are currently saying, where he was looking at, he was doing all of these hotel rentals all over the place. So looks like he'd been planning the shooting, but no, he's not planning a shooting. He's just selling guns all over the country. He's got a lot of buyers and they come to the casinos, and then he launders the money through the casinos. So we've got to be careful when the evidence is presented as to how we see that evidence, because the media, whether it's intentional or not, is irrelevant. The media is going to put their spin on it. The media is going to say, oh, well, that means this. Well, it might mean that. It might not mean that too, right? So here is a guy that, according to the best theory from the FBI and the Sheriff's Department and the media, has been planning this for the best part of a year. And then he's been in this hotel room for 3 days. And then he makes a mistake, smashing out the wrong window? What? Really? You think he hasn't rehearsed this shooting over and over and over again? Knows exactly which window he's going to be shooting out of? Knows exactly what he's doing. Doesn't make some silly mistake at the last minute and shoot and knock out one window, one end of the suite, and facing a different direction, and then knock out another window altogether. No one who's been planning this for a year and then has been in this hotel room for 3 full days at a minimum. There's some discussion about when he actually checked in. It might have been 3 days before, or it might have been 6 days before. We don't know, right? Which is silly. How could they not know that? It's a little bizarre. But then he's in this room for at least 3 days, maybe 6, but at least 3 days. And you're trying to tell me that he made a mistake at the last moment and smashed out the wrong window. Bullshit. Okay, so I think that is the strongest piece of circumstantial evidence that at the very least, Stephen Paddock was not the sole shooter. If he was one of the shooters, which I don't think he was, but if he was, then he was one of 2 shooters. In the recordings that we can hear with the gunfire, people say they can hear 2 or 3 shooters. I think that's entirely reasonable for people to be saying, because if we look at the hotel, let's say the camera is where the hotel is, and we've got one window facing this way, and we've got another one that's slightly angled this way, okay? And one of these windows faces another building off in the distance. So there's an echo from one gunshot hitting the building and coming back to the source, the person with their phone recording this. The other one just goes straight out. Doesn't hit any building. There's no building between it and miles and miles and miles off into the distance. Okay? So somebody recording with their phone sounds like there was 3 shooters, because one shooter's the sound from their gun is echoing off a building and coming back, which is exactly what it sounds like on the audio recording, and the other shooter, there's no echo. So that is consistent with people saying there was 2 or 3 shooters, right? Because also depending on where they were, they may not have been able to hear the echo come back too, okay? So that's consistent. Now, I don't think Stephen Paddock was one of the shooters. If he was one of the shooters, then we have to go crazy and suggest that one of the shooters shot Stephen Paddock on his way out of the room. Stephen Paddock is armed with a weapon. You can't take the guy out when he's also armed with a fully automatic weapon. Are you crazy? You're going to try and kill the guy? No. See, it just doesn't make any sense, right? It's very hard to start piecing it together, the logic of the official story. And look, some people are saying this is crazy conspiracy talk. you might want to pay more attention if you're one of these people, and thankfully there's few, because most people are looking at this going, something's not right here. Listen to the feds talking about this, both the police chief in Vegas and the FBI. They honestly don't know, and their story is open to change. I just watched, in fact, I've got it on my screen paused over here. Actually, let me just step out of frame, because let me see if this is going to be loud enough. I don't think so.
Based upon our discretion.
No, you can't hear it. It's not loud enough. Anyway, but I have this video over here of the FBI guy who's in charge of the investigation, and he's really honestly pleading for evidence. He's saying, we need to know what happened. If you've got information, they're actually putting up billboards in Vegas to request information. This doesn't seem like the FBI is running some kind of a sting or a conspiracy of their own here. You know, I actually don't think the FBI is in on this. They may be, okay? I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not ruling anything out, but I don't think so. I think this is a legitimate, non-government involved shooting, and the government is actually truly stumped by this, and I don't think they think Stephen Paddock did it, or they wouldn't be asking for information and spending money on billboards and doing these press conferences pleading for more information. What would they do? What have they done with other shootings and things where, you know, they have a story they want you to believe? They tell you what that story is, and they ridicule you if you say anything to the contrary. That's not happening here at all, right? The government agencies are legitimately requesting information. So, you know, I gotta tell you, I don't believe in the official story of 9/11. I don't believe in every conspiracy theory that's out there, but there are certain conspiracy theories that have well been proven to be absolutely true, right? In this case, I don't think the government is in on this. I think they're as stumped about this as everybody else is. And I don't think that they are stuck on the story of Stephen Paddock being the shooter. I think as evidence comes to light that Stephen Paddock was not the shooter, that they will gladly, you know, change their mind, however they do that, an apology, whatever. But I don't think they're stuck on this story. And I think that is damning to anyone suggesting that the FBI has a story that they want you to believe in and they don't care about anything else, because that's simply not what's going on here. So these guys get into the room, they shoot Stephen Paddock. They look down and they notice, why is Stephen Paddock choosing the locations? Because he loves country music. Okay, we know this about him. That's a fact. Okay, we know he loves country music. And so he was setting up these arrangements around country music festivals. Now, of course, a lot of people out there, because of what the feds and the media have told us, say, oh, he was going around looking for targets. No! He was just out there enjoying himself. That's what he did. He was living life, man. He was running guns. He was making considerable income from running the guns. He was going to all the music festivals around the country that he liked. And he was here at this one, which he was attending. That is a fact. And now he's dead on the floor. And we've got these two guys, which, if you've just joined us, I suspect were Antifa. And they're listening to this music because it's loud and it's hitting the hotel. And they would have been hearing it all day. And their people were down in that crowd, right? That's the people that started to warn everybody. Antifa people in the crowd, okay? And then they get a text message, yeah, we're about to go into the room. And, you know, or maybe they get a text message, you know, like, we just killed the seller and we're going to use these guns and shoot up the music festival, get out. There'd be some back and forth, and then these people in listening to the music start leaving, telling everybody, you're dead, you're going to be dead, right? That's what they did. There's too many eyewitnesses that have said that for that not to have been true. So somebody was warning people. So Antifa had people that were there just enjoying the music like everybody else, but then they get out of there. Now it becomes a crime of opportunity. And the Antifa people are like, dude, forget November 4th. We got all these people that we hate. Who do we hate the most? White, male Americans, redneck, Christian, racists. Oh, look what's right below us here. Oh my God. And so they smash the windows out, they grab these weapons, and they just start firing into the crowd. Now, was the security guard, is he an undocumented alien? Is he part of Antifa? That's very possible. Was he their guy on the inside? Very possible. Was that just pure coincidence and he was walking down the hallway because somebody else left their room, their door ajar, setting off the alarm? And so the security guard was coming up to just pull the door closed, make sure everything's okay. And they think, oh shit, we're busted. So they turn and they start shooting this guy, right? There's some reports that there were 200 rounds fired through the door at the security guard and only one hit him apparently in the leg, right? This can go either way. The security guard may have been in on it. I lean towards that being more of a possibility because now he's gotten out of the press conference and all these TV appearances he was going to do, and now he's gone into hiding, right? Now, either that's because people in Antifa are leaning on him, or the FBI is leaning on him because they know Stephen Paddock wasn't the shooter, but they're not ready to say anything just right now. So they don't want him saying anything where the media is going to start going, well, wait a minute. Oh, we didn't know about those two people you saw go into the room and come out of the room, you know, right? There could be any way, right? But so they fire into the room, into the crowd. They kill a bunch of people, and I bet you they had no idea the damage they were about to inflict. I mean, you know, I'm not a military guy. I've fired guns before, but nothing like that. Most people haven't, right? Most people have not fired fully automatic weapons before. I would never imagine that much shooting, you know, arbitrarily into a dark space would have actually killed 58 people and wounded hundreds more. I never would have imagined the carnage that took place there. I would have thought 10, 12, 15 people maybe killed and maybe 40 or 50 injured. But I would guess they're very surprised about it too. So they do the shooting and then they get out of there. And we probably have them on tons of video, but we don't know who they are. Right? They're just normal people that dress just like regular people. You know, you go to hotels. I've been to Vegas many times, stayed at the hotels, and you know, you get all kinds of people there, from people that are dressed to the nines, from people that are in dirty t-shirts and jeans, right? I mean, every single kind of person is in the casino. So it doesn't matter who did the shooting, they're not really going to stand out in a place like Vegas. Now on that too, I'm used to living out of hotels. People have said, you know, man, that's crazy suspicious with, you know, moving all of these guns and ammunition into the room. Somebody would have seen something and said something. That's not true, okay? When you look at the amount of actual space, of containers that he would have had, it just wouldn't have been that many. I want to show you something here. I've lived in hotels, and I use these containers. I drive around in my car, and I have all of my stuff. This one's empty, of course. And I fill these up with all kinds of things. And I still do. I live out of them even now. I've got my food in one, my supplements in one. I've got clothes in one. I've got dirty clothes in another. Or this is how I live. I live out of my car. You check into a hotel, you get the cart, and you load it up with these, and you wheel it in. So look at this, right? What would you think if I started loading, 10 of these into my hotel room, and you worked at the hotel? What would you think? I'll tell you what you would think. Nothing. Because people do it all the time. A lot of people have lived that way, right? So I traveled around the country for 18 months, and I did this. And those of you know I'm about to start building a van so I can go interview people in a mobile recording studio. I'm keeping this. I mean, this just makes so much sense to compartmentalize your life like this. People bring big boxes, carts, and stuff up to their rooms in hotels all the time. It's completely usual. It's common. It's normal. So I see so many people saying, that's the main thing. We know that this is an FBI setup because no one would have been allowed to bring all of these boxes of things up into the room. It's just simply not true. Okay. People do it all the time. I did it for 18 months at a new hotel every other day, and not one time was asked to, what's in those containers, let's take a look. Not one single time. And I've stayed in some very cheap hotels, and I've stayed in some very expensive hotels, and not in the Mandalay Bay, but including top hotels in Vegas. You don't get asked what's in your stuff. You can take as much stuff up to your room as you want. So, spend a little bit of time on that, but I keep seeing this, and it's simply because people haven't ever lived that kind of lifestyle. They don't know that it's actually fairly normal. You'll see other people doing it too, all right? So then the police get into the room, and they see this setup of this guy who runs guns. He's got his own little camera security set up for his own peace of mind. And yeah, on these cameras, we should have all the evidence we need. And if it was ISIS that did this, they would immediately say something. And the media would be chasing that like insanity, as it always does. I don't think this is ISIS. If this was Antifa, whom the media loves and who our government is full of people that have a soft spot for Antifa, and they realize that if this was Antifa, that this literally is the first shots fired in a new civil war. I mean, for real. What do you think the reaction would be from patriotic Americans tonight if the FBI went on TV right now and said, this is what it is, here's the video clip, we've now captured these two people, they are Antifa? What do you think would happen? I mean, the chances that would initiate a bona fide civil war where all your most patriotic, redneck, racist, Americans are going to come out packing heat, and things are going to get ugly. So that's what I think may have happened. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm going to swipe back over your questions and go through them, and I hope you've posted some challenges there to some of the things I've said, because that's what I want. I don't want you to have me go and look at somebody else's ideas. I've said that at the beginning. All I want is, if you've got some evidence, I want to see it. And if you have a challenge to my theory, then please put it below, because I don't have a dog in the fight. I just want to know what's going on. If you've got something like, you haven't considered this and may throw this all out the window, then excellent. All right, that's what we want. I just want truth. So let's just go over it for everyone that's joined us late. Stephen Paddock did not shoot anybody. He was running guns, has been running guns probably the majority of his life, or at least the last 20 years or so. That's why he has all these bookings all the time. doing this. He's a country music lover. He attends country music festivals all around the country all the time with his girlfriend. We know this to be true. He rents several hotel rooms and several Airbnb places as safe houses, places he can escape to. That's why he rents them and he never visits them, right? It's not because he's trying to arrange a mass shooting. It's because he's selling guns and he's looking out for himself, right? He wants a place to go to that no one has ever seen him at, right? If he's being followed, then he wants to make sure that he's got places to go to that he's never been before, right? So that's why he does all that. Fits in perfectly with someone who's just running guns. So he runs guns all the time, as we can see from his history. This is not new by any means. There's nothing new in the way he's been doing anything. He's been doing this for his whole life, right? This deal, though, goes wrong. The people come to the door, they notice the camera hidden in the food service tray sitting outside the door. That makes them look at each other and go, what the fuck, man? Like, is this a sting? They probably think it's an FBI sting. I don't think it was. Yes, it may have been. Well, I don't think it is for reasons I've already expressed. I don't think the FBI is involved. I don't think this is a government conspiracy. This is a gun running operation that has gone wrong. Occam's razor. Go with the simplest possible explanation. My theory, which I see other people have been saying things about it too. Other people have got the same theory, right? It just makes sense. It's very simple, right? There's no this and that and craziness and trying to fit this in. No, it's just the facts, looking at the facts and going, wait a minute. This guy was just running, he's a country music lover. He had all these connections from working with defense companies to buy guns, so he knew people that would modify weapons for him. He was then selling those weapons through the hotels. He was laundering the money through the slot machines, and that's it. But this time, the people that he was selling to got suspicious, they freaked out, they shot him, they killed him, right? Now, there is some speculation that he was shot in the chest as well as the head. I want to see the photo. Show me that evidence. I haven't seen a photo, right? If that's the case, then that just further affirms my theory, because there's no way you could have shot him on the way out, or highly unlikely. You want to point your gun at a guy who's also armed with a fully automatic machine gun? Yeah, not likely. All right, that's very unlikely. Maybe you're waiting for the time. Are you out? Oh, great. And yeah, sure, that's a possibility, but unlikely. So they come in, they kill Stephen Paddock, and they're looking at this country music festival. They text their friends that are down there in the music festival, and they say, hey, get out of the music festival. We're going to use these guns. This guy, I think this was a sting. I think we're busted, because they see all the cameras now, right? They see the cameras in the room. And so they think probably, oh, we're screwed. This is an FBI sting. We're gone, right? So they say, well, fine. Let's get these guns. Let's kill all these people down here. Why? Because those are the people that Antifa hates the most. It is their most single hated demographic, period. So Antifa has motive, right? They see these white, redneck, country music males, and they're going to teach them a lesson. Right? They just killed one man. They think it's a sting. They don't think they're going to get out of here alive. So they get these weapons, especially when they see the security guard coming. So they probably, oh shit, see, here they come. Boo! They shoot the guy in the leg, and it's like, well, we're about to die, man. They're about to bust through the door, so let's get these weapons. And they smash the windows out. They start firing into the crowd. They start killing everybody. And then there's still no police here. Man, let's get out of here. Let's just go. And they get out of the room, and they get out of the hotel. And they're just dressed like everybody else. They get outside, and right now, the FBI and the police will know exactly who they are, because we've got the video cameras in the rooms, and they're looking for them, right? These people are probably very deeply in hiding right now, right? So when you look at it that way, there's no weird, crazy conspiracies. It's just the simple facts. It fits so well. It just makes sense, right? And this is why I don't want anyone else's theories. If you now have a challenge to anything I've said, then please present that. And if you've got any evidence that I haven't mentioned, well, yeah, then present that. Let's talk about the note for a second. Just happen to have a yellow note here about some naturopaths here locally. So there was a yellow note that was sitting on a bedside table in the hotel room. We are told that on the note was some algebraic equations for working out the angle of fire. I don't buy that at all. I think that's bullshit. If those were, then I would say that they were for a different target. I've seen a couple of people online that claim to be military shooters and snipers that have said this was not a hard target. Anyone with no gun experience could have pointed a gun at a crowd that huge and killed lots and lots and lots of people. You didn't need gun experience. Now, if they're buying guns, they do have at least some gun experience. And don't think these Antifa people are, you know, a bunch of people living in their mother's basement. Some of these people are highly educated. Some of them, you know, one of the guy that smashed the bike lock against someone's face, I mean, that guy was a university professor, right? So communists, they're not dumb people. They're usually highly intellectual people. So could it have been one of these guys working out something? I don't know, but we don't know what was on the note. So we can't say it's evidence. We've got to be really careful with how the media or the police or the FBI are telling us how to think about something. All we know is that there was a leaked photo that shows a yellow piece of paper with a pen sitting on it on the you know, we're told it's not a suicide note, it had numbers written on it. Maybe, but we don't know that. We haven't seen a photo with high enough resolution to make out what's on the paper, right? So be careful with what, you know, the thoughts that you have around core pieces of evidence, and the way that, for example, the guy is just a country music lover and goes to festivals because he likes that, right? And because there's always lots of people there, which provides you cover. And so the media wants you to say, oh, see, he was planning a place to do the shooting. No, what are you talking about? He's just a guy that's freaking loaded that is out enjoying himself. I'd be doing the same thing, right? All right, so let's see what questions you might have. All right. Let me scroll to the bottom and we'll go back. Okay, my reaction by okay, well, let's see if all down. I'm not sure. Is there? Maybe 10. Exactly. So Stephanie here is mentioning how if he was going to do a mass shooting, well, you would not bring all those guns. First of all, you would have been using the gun that you were going to use in the shooting for a very long time. You would know that gun very well. And you may have a backup to that gun, right? Especially when you're doing high-speed firing, because they tend to jam far more. So maybe he had a backup. Maybe he had 5 backups, which is ridiculous, right? But you don't have 23 guns, right? No one does that. Why would you take the risk? Obviously, it's because you're moving guns, right? Stephen Paddock, I'm fairly confident, is not the shooter. And I think they know that. And I don't think it's because they don't want to, that they have a conspiracy about wanting him to be the shooter. I think it's because at this point in time, they don't want us to know the truth about it. But I think we're going to find, I think they are going to tell us the truth about this. I don't believe this is a government operation. So, 2 windows were shot out, weren't they? Exactly, and I talked about this already. Think about a guy who's been planning this for so long. Multiple different places around the United States. You know, this is what they want you to believe. I don't think this is true, but let's say he's planning it out. And then he's in this room for 3 days while the event has been going on. He shot everyone. The shooting took place the last night of the event, right? So it doesn't make sense that there would be 2 windows shot out. Why? Because he knows exactly what he's doing. There's no thinking about it. You've been planning this for so long, it's completely automatic. You know everything you are doing. You have run over this in your head literally thousands of times. You don't make a mistake right at the very last second and smash out the wrong window and then go, oh, whoops, oh, it's not going to work from this one. Well, oh, let me try this one over here. No. You've got 2 windows smashed out and you've got audio recordings that sound like 2 or 3 shooters. 2 shooters, one is on an angle that was bouncing off another building, so you've got an echo. So that's why people are saying I heard 2 or 3. That's right, you heard 2 shooters and 1 echo, all right? So that's right. Samuel says, no motive, to keep it ambiguous and not claim it. It also doesn't fit their MO. This is the thing, like, what was Stephen Paddock's motive? Why is there nothing in his past that remotely suggests anything like this? Someone who's been planning this is going to leave a trail. No one is that precise, right? I mean, you're going to make a mistake here or there. We're going to be able to look back at the data going through the networks and see, even if you had to burn a phone that you got rid of, even if you had a laptop that you've got rid of, right? The NSA has all this material. They can go back through, are there searches at this guy from this location? We know he was there. You start to, through the metadata, you start to find out the IP that he was using at the time, and you can just lift all of his traffic and see exactly what he was doing. Everything we do online is being stored permanently at NSA, right? I mean, we all know this, not conspiracy. The government's admitted this, right? They could be bringing all of this up and they would see, they would find a motive and they would bring it to us. Because if this was their story, we would keep getting new information that was backing up their story that they wanted us to believe. That's not happening. They keep changing the story and they're begging us for information. They're putting up billboards saying, please give us information. This is not the modus operandi of a government, the United States government, in the way it has systematically lied to its people with events like this, with Waco and other bombings that have taken place, and 9/11 and all this kind of stuff, where they've got a story and they stick to it, and over time more and more evidence comes to support their theory. Only one theory, right? And it doesn't change. With 9/11 we knew everything right at the get-go. Within 20 minutes we know who did it and all this kind of stuff, right? Because the story was already set in stone. But they're not doing that here at all. They're changing their story and they're begging for information. This isn't a government sting. The FBI is not involved. The government is not involved in this. This was a normal gun buying operation that went wrong, and a crime of opportunity took place because the people that were buying the guns saw that their prime targets just happened to be right here, and they could knock these windows out and start firing these weapons into them. Because they thought that it was a sting because they saw the cameras. They were inexperienced, because this, I think, is Antifa. These weren't experienced terrorists or gun buyers. These were amateurs. They freaked out. They thought they were about to die. So they start to kill everybody, and somehow they got away. They got out of the hotel, but they're just dressed like everyone else, so they blend in, they walk out. Of course, the feds and the police will know who these people are. We'll have them on video. Unless, I just thought about this right now, unless they actually deleted, if they reformatted all of the media cards in the cameras, they did have plenty of time before the time that we think they went into the room and the time they started shooting. I hadn't thought about that before. So actually they had plenty of time. I don't know. You must still think that they would be thinking there would be a camera secreted somewhere in the room that was, that they couldn't see, surely. But yeah, maybe that's a possibility. Maybe that they they found all the cameras. They had plenty of time to do so. Hotel rooms are completely sparse. It's very, even with my laptop, trying to find a place in the hotel room to hide my laptop where I think room cleaning people are not going to stumble upon it, because I don't want to take it with me, and there's no safe in the room. This was the case just this weekend when I was staying in Phoenix. The hotel, I live in a lot of hotels, right? So I know hotels very, very well. It was a real tough one. So what do I do there? Well, I got 2 queen beds, and I shouldn't be telling you this. I shove it underneath, it's very flat, underneath the pillows on the untouched bed, because they shouldn't touch it and they shouldn't see it. They shouldn't see the impression. So they could have found all the cameras and reformatted all the memory cards. That is a very real possibility. I hadn't thought of that one before. But anyway, they get out of the room, and there's not a lot of cameras in the rooms of hotels, especially in the nicer suites, right? In the lower floors where you and I tend to stay, yes, there can be cameras near the elevators and things, but in the higher floors, like in the suites where VIPs stay, no. They won't stay there if you've got a camera on them, okay? That's always how it is. And you walk into places where dignitaries stay, there's no cameras or anything like that. You don't do that to those people. You don't get trouble from those people. If someone's spending $700-800 a night for one of your hotel rooms, you're not expecting there to be any problems, right? It's on the lower floors where people have got rooms for $50 and $60 a night where you expect to have problems, okay? So there aren't cameras in those upper floors like a lot of people think there are. They're just not there, okay? But at some point, they would have walked through somewhere where they were finally picked up on camera, and the problem is they're just going to blend in with everybody else, right? So it's not like there's a good chance that the FBI and the police, if they formatted the cards in the cameras in the room, there were 3 cameras, absolutely plenty of time. It would have been millennials. They know how to reformat a memory card. It's not a difficult task. Anyone can do that. And so, yeah, the police and the FBI wouldn't know what they look like. Anyway, that's what I think happened here. And I'm not set on it. I don't believe this is what happened, but it's possible, right? Okay, so let's see here. There's some good comments here, I think. Let's see. Why did he send his girlfriend overseas if this was normal for him? That was normal for him. Didn't you listen to his brother interview? This is what he does, right? He said he'd done it before. He'd sent her overseas and then even came over himself and surprised her, right? So again, you got to be careful about, detach your thoughts from the evidence itself, or you'll never work it out, okay? So you've got to look at a piece of evidence and just go, what could it mean? Don't worry about what the media says it means. Forget that. Don't worry about what the police or the FBI said that piece of evidence means. No. You've got to just look at what it is on its own. He sent her over to... Is that unusual? Right? That's the first question we need to ask ourselves. Has he done it before? If he hadn't done it before, well, then that's going to raise our eyebrows. Has he done it before? Yes. Oh. So there was a normal thing, probably. Yes. But wait. He sent her $100,000. Now, we don't know this guy's net income, like net wealth, but clearly, because some of the hotels have said that he spent almost $1 million in a single day, this guy has far more money than what they are telling us, right? I'm guessing he's got a net worth somewhere around 50, 60, 70 million dollars. His girlfriend's mother doesn't have her own home. He sent the money with a note saying that this money was for you to help your mother buy a new home. Well, for people with means, this is completely normal. I mean, I'm friends with millionaires, and I actually know, great friends of mine that are billionaires, and people can be very generous. You know, it's not everybody's a, you know, this idea that wealthy people are tight asses and selfish is just such a joke. I've never met, obviously they exist, but I've never met a seriously wealthy person in my life that is stingy. It's always completely the other way around. They're so generous. So sending $100,000 over there and saying, hey, my girlfriend's mum, help your mum buy a new home. I don't see anything unusual about that. I just don't. So I don't think that's a big deal. So we know that he sent her overseas quite often, and we know he's completely loaded. There was an Antifa Sting video. I know the video you're referring to. There was an Antifa Sting video by some guy where the chick was saying they were getting AKs soon, and she's in jail now. I've seen that. That was the Steven Crowder sting, right? Says it was normal to explain this question with true intention. This was done by Steven Crowder. Yes. Right? I've been saying this for years. Do not underestimate communists. I've lived in this country. I've been coming to this country on business since I was 21, but I've lived here now for 11 years. And when you have grown up here in the system, you don't see what someone who comes into it and starts to see it sees, right? It's kind of like this: when you're sitting on the beach and someone comes up and says, the tide coming in or out, you could have been sitting there for an hour and just going, I don't know. But if the guy looks at the water and goes away and comes back an hour later, oh, it's going out. I see the water has moved, right? So sometimes it's harder to see what's going on when you're always there. Sometimes to see clearer, you need to go away and come back. One of the things that scares me more than anything for the United States of America is the rise of communism in this country. And people don't take me seriously on this at all. Communism is rising again in America. And my American friends, if you're not seeing that, and I invite you to start thinking about this seriously. I'm not crazy. You can go back and see who I am on Facebook. I'm not a crazy person. Communism is rising in this country, and they want a revolution, right? That's what Antifa is. Don't underestimate them. So you think, wow, man, I can imagine ISIS killing all those people, but Antifa, really? Man, look at what communism has done. Look how many people, 160 plus million people have died at the hands of communism last century. No, don't underestimate these people, right? They're insane. One of my mentors, Eckhart Tolle, he doesn't call himself New Age, but all New Agers, idolize almost Eckhart Tolle as a great spiritual guru. I think a few years ago, Time magazine rated Eckhart Tolle as the #1 spiritual guru in the world, above the Dalai Lama and even the Pope. So Eckhart Tolle, you would expect, because of the people that love him so much, who are almost always socialists and communists, Democrats, not all, because I'm certainly not, and I love Eckhart Tolle, but the majority, yes, 60, 70%, maybe 80% of those people that follow Eckhart Tolle are people that consider themselves New Age and would also say they're socialist or even communist. Well, it's interesting that Eckhart Tolle he speaks so strongly against communism and calls it the most gross collective unconsciousness. And it's the only time I listen to a lot of his audio. It's the only time I've really heard him get emotional. Like, he hates communism. He would say, no, I don't hate. Okay, whatever. But he is so strongly opposed to the to communism, and he believes it is the, you know, one of the most unconscious forms of the human consciousness is to be this way. These people will kill us. Now I'm telling you, if there is a civil war in this country against communists, if they are truly going to make things go to that level, kill the fuckers. Kill the communists, because they will kill us. They will not stop. You put them in prison and they will come out and train up a whole new generation. It's exactly what happened. It's exactly why we're dealing with the situation we have right now, because we don't take the threat of communism seriously. Now, did Antifa do this? No, I don't know. I think that they have the strongest MO to have done this. They have the strongest motive to have carried out this act, but I'm not saying it was them. I don't care. You listen to what I'm saying about communism. We need to be so careful. They have declared war starting on November 4th. What really was on that yellow note? I wonder if the numbers that were written on that note on the bedside table were the dates of what is to come. And that's why they won't tell us. So I think that's what it might be. I think on that pad of paper are the dates of the next ones, the next massacres. I think this could be, I'm not predicting this. I know I make a lot of predictions. I'm not predicting this. I'm not saying I believe that this, but I said it day one, this may have been the first shots fired in a new civil war, a real bona fide civil war. Civilians and military out in the streets shooting at each other. So don't underestimate the communists. If this was Antifa, that's what this is. This is the first shots fired in a new civil war. And they will kill us. They will kill us. Let's see, I'm just looking at your questions here. Wally John says those guns will fire 800 rounds continually before melting down. I think if it's made to be a fully automatic weapon, that is true, because it's designed for that. But I think if you convert like an AR-15 to fully automatic, then you know, which, I mean, I think it's a whole different lower, right? So I think that they don't handle the continuous fire very well, because the barrel is just not made, you know, other parts of the gun. I think they replaced the lower receiver with a different one altogether. I don't think they modify an AR-15 lower receiver into fully automatic. I think it's a different lower receiver. And of course with 3D printing technology today, I mean, that's so stinking easy. Joseph said, who gets rich playing video poker? Thank you, Joseph, for reminding me of that. So again, the media is trying to say he gets rich playing video poker. No one gets rich playing video poker. That's BS. That's total BS. All right? You systematically lose money. Well, why would he do it? Because he's laundering money. He doesn't care about the loss. That's simply the cost of business. That's just, so what? The amount that the casino takes, averaged out over time, is very small. Very, very small. It's only like a couple of %. So, you know, who cares? Let's say I'm going to lose 5% of my money putting it through the slots. Who cares? Who cares? It makes no difference. It's just the cost of doing business. He had multiple properties as well. That's how he got rich. He funded the game. He had properties too, yeah. And why did he have all of these properties all over the country? So he could have multiple addresses. Why did he rent the Airbnbs and the additional rooms? So he had safe places to go to, right? You set all the guns up in one room. You don't live in that room. That's why they said the room is empty. Of course it was empty. He wasn't living in that room. He only brought the guns to that room. He was only in that room for a little while when the buyers came in to do the deal. And unfortunately, the deal didn't go very well this time. because he lost his life. I want the video. You all want the videos. Oh, yeah, Stephanie, of course. Stephanie, they could have just taken the media from the cameras, put it in their pocket, and away they go. Break them. Yeah, it's even smarter. Why hasn't the hotel released any videos? Videos of what? As I explained, in the upper rooms and the suites, these massive suites, there's no cameras, baby. You do not put cameras in the high levels of your hotel because that's where your VIPs are. And VIPs don't want to be on your cameras, right? You put cameras in the lower levels that are 50 or 60 a night instead of the big rooms that are $700, $800 a night. Because you don't get problems with the people staying in a $700 hotel room. You get problems with people staying in a $50 hotel room. Right? So that's where the cameras are. And by the time they do finally walk into an area where they're now on a camera, which they would have been, but how do we know who they are? They just blend in like everybody else, right? Spot an Antifa person, and you can't. It's just a millennial with dye in the hair or something, I mean, there's going on the theory that this was done by Antifa. If laws have cameras in the hallway, I don't believe there isn't. Not in VIP rooms. Again, Antifa does not have the pull to get all the truth videos, personal accounts removed from social media. People get their accounts deleted because they're dicks online. The one thing that I'm really confident of here is this is not a government conspiracy. This is not a government operation. Now, are people inside of the government may be involved because they know Stephen Paddock and they're helping supply guns? Oh, sure. There will be connections to government, but was this a sting done by the FBI? I don't think so. Or any other government agency that, and it went wrong. Or they're trying to nail Stephen Paddock as the shooter? No. I don't believe they're trying to nail Stephen Paddock as the shooter. I think they're just going on what they saw in the beginning and they're trying to work out legitimately what went on, like the rest of us. I am not seeing the government put out, or the media for that matter, put out a consistent story. Rather, it's all over the place, and now the whole country's wondering, like, well, what's the deal with this shooting? That's not how government builds and creates a narrative and feeds it to the public and keeps dropping in more and more evidence that supports that narrative. They're not doing that. This is not a government operation. Why did they give us a video from 2011 from Vegas but haven't showed it up? I don't know. Hell no, you're not nuts. The scary thing about communism taking over the US is we know it's going to usher in one more go. Not if we kill them all. You're right about that. Communism has been infiltrating this country and the world for over 100 years now. Yeah, you got to kill the communists because they will kill you. So this is why I'm saying, even though it might sound absurd, I lean more towards, I'm not saying they did it, but I'm leaning more towards that this was done. This was a crime of opportunity. It wasn't planned. It was a crime of opportunity by Antifa people that were buying guns. And I appreciate Stephanie you saying, because I'd forgotten about that. Stephen Crowder had this infiltration into Antifa where they said they were going to be buying fully automatic weapons. Hello, right? So we have motive. We even have some circumstantial evidence in the form of these Antifa people admitting that they are in the business of acquiring automatic weapons. There's not too many people in the country that are running automatic weapons. Stephen Paddock is probably one of maybe 20 people that's doing this, right? There's a very good chance that the people that they were going to be getting those weapons from was Stephen Paddock. You see, you don't have to create some grand conspiracy. All the facts just start to lock into each other, and it's creating this picture. There's no weird stretching. It's just like all the facts just seems to speak for itself. This seems to be what happened, right? There's no crazy, weird, well, this and that, and well, if this happened, and well, if that happened. No, it's just looking at the evidence. That's it. That's why I think that I'm right about this. And I'm not the only person that's come to very similar conclusions about this, right? Well, they're both threats. They're talking about whether Islam or communism are worse. How many people have Muslims killed compared to communism? I mean, your argument doesn't even stand up to the lightest of scrutiny. The greatest threat to the world is not Orthodox Islam; it is communism. And come on, Wally, that doesn't even make sense. I mean, how many people have died at the hands of Islam? I mean, like, not even 1% of those that have died at the hands of communists. The MacArthur trials were about rooting out commies. Yeah, and so America used to take communism really seriously, and now they don't. Now everyone's soft on communism, right? You don't get people with anti-communism bumper stickers anymore or anything like that, you know? Now you're starting to see what? Bumper stickers that are communist, literally. Hammer and sickle, Antifa. There's no doubt about it in the world. Like, communism is rising in America again, and they're going to go to war with us at some point, whether this is the start of it now or whether it's in 2, 3, 5 or 10 years. Communism is going to rise in America and create a civil war. There's no doubt about that. Communism is the most destructive idea in human history, Samuel says. That's right. Something with the bump stock. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. He made money initially off properties and investments, and he is an accountant. Yeah, I mean, he knew money and he knows how money works. That's why you watch, right? I mean, you guys have been watching me over the last 18 months, or especially since January this year. Actually, when I pulled out of depression, I've rebuilt my life. I'm rebuilding my life, and as I start to put the things I already know about money into practice, and I continue this journey of learning about how money works and how you can, and people investing in Bitcoin. People will hate me for saying this, but Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme. It's not going to last. I mean, and it's a silly currency. The blockchain technology they're using there is so immature. I mean, how many exchanges have been hacked and all the Bitcoin stolen and things like this? I mean, if you want to make money, don't do Bitcoin. Read books on money and success and learn how money works and build wealth in the world. It starts slowly, but once it starts to build, it compounds. And 30 years down the road, or even less, depending on how hard you work, that money compounds and you start becoming a multi-millionaire. It's not hard. You just got to know how. Right? That's what I say. Poverty is a state of mind, right? All right. Any more questions? Oh, he was a pilot too. Had 2 planes. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to know about all your other conspiracy theories. I'm not. Yeah, bump stocks aren't reliable, Wally. They were buying fully automatic weapons, not weapons with bump stocks. You can hear in the audio, those aren't bump stocks. It's not fast enough to be a bump stock. There may have been bump stocks in the room because they were part of the deal, because they were a cheaper piece of merchandise. But the weapons that were used for shooting into the crowd do not appear to be bump stocks. That they were too accurate. It's very hard to be accurate with a bump stock. I mean, it's freaking crazy town. So it had to have been fully automatic, and the speed of fire it just sounds too rapid to be a bump stock. Yeah, Wally, you're just I mean, no, it's good. Challenge it. It's fine. Do you think? Yeah, I think there was 2 shooters. Well, of course there's 2 shooters. There's 2 smashed windows. You think a guy, I've said this I think twice already, but you think a guy that has been planning this for over a year, who's been in this room for 3 days, 3 days, not 3 hours, 3 days, who's been planning this for so long, and here's the day, and he's got it in a 3 day, and he's setting up camp, and You think right at the last second he's gonna, oh, let me just walk over this, smash this out here. Oh, I can't shoot from this one. Oh, well, darn. Let me walk over this side of the suite, and oh, yeah, this one might work. Let me try this one. It's just like to believe that one man who'd been planning this broke out 2 windows, just stupidity. Okay, that's just nonsense. That's why we've got to be careful with the way the media wants us to think. But why did he smash out? So they got you thinking, why did he smash out 2 windows instead of why are there 2 windows smashed out? Why are there 2 windows smashed out? Would a man who's been planning this for a long time, as they want us to believe, have smashed out 2 windows of a suite he's been in for 3 days? No, no, it's stupid. No, there are obviously 2 shooters. And on the audio recordings, you can hear 2 or 3 shooters. And the people that were there, the eyewitnesses said there were 2 or 3 shooters. And I think the reason that people were confused is because there were 2 shooters. One of those was angled out of the window toward another building, and so there was an echo that came back. And so it sounded like there was 2 or 3 shooters. So that's perfect, right? 3 days plus how many times exactly? He stayed in these hotels many times. Because why? Because he loves country music and he goes to these country music festivals all around the country all the time. That's what you do. I mean, that's what you do, you know. I'm about to go live in a nice van, but when I'm living in my van, I'm going to be going interviewing people for my podcast thing. It's going to be real cool. It's coming November 1st. First episode of my podcast. It's with an incredible person that works in the criminal justice system. Her name is Catherine Bernard, and she is a criminal defense attorney. And you are not going to believe some of the things that she has to say in this podcast. It is dropping November 1st. Don't forget, November 1st. You can subscribe on iTunes right now, because I'm going to be using my existing feed where I've got some other random stuff that I've done before, some other random podcasts. They're not very interesting. I'll leave them up there. But you can go subscribe to that feed on iTunes or any other of the podcatchers right now, and subscribe to Israel. It's just called Israel Anderson, the podcast. Very simple, okay? Just subscribe to that, and November 1st, the first episode will drop. Oh, and you're going to love this. This is more professional than anything we've ever heard in the Liberty Movement before. I want this podcast to be in the top 50 podcasts in the world within 12 months. I am being very, very serious about this podcast. Most of you don't know because I stopped doing it long before we created the Liberty Movement, but I was one of the very first podcasters back when I lived down under. So I had created one of the very first Christian podcasting sites called God's iPod. It was very popular. And I got out of podcasting for a very, very long time, and podcasting waned away. And then all of a sudden, over the last 3 or 4 years, podcasting has come back with a vengeance, and now it's really becoming the rage, right? Everybody's starting to do podcasts again, which is fantastic. And so am I. I'm getting back into the business and doing podcasts, and I have a very different, interesting interview technique where I get really into people's personal details, a little bit like Larry King. I kind of really look up to his interview methods, really finding the story behind the story. And I'm going up to Boulder this week to interview one of the most innovative organic farmers in the world, and talking about these new techniques that he's developed where he uses about 80% less moisture in the soil than other farming techniques. I'm going to California to interview some people about the theory of everything, emergence theory. So we're going to be talking with physicists, we're going to be talking with farmers, we're going to be talking with criminal defense attorneys, all kinds of extremely interesting people, right? And you'll find them all on the podcast, November 1st. Very excited about that. And looks like we're through all the questions here. So I hope that has given you something to think about. If you think of something that would challenge anything that I've said, please tag my name below. And I know if you're watching this on my page, you're not able to leave a comment because I started this on my personal profile. But once the video has stopped, it'll still be there, and then you'll be able to leave a comment. Please, I don't have a dog in the fight. I just want to try to work out what it was. So if you've got a challenge to my theory, please would you put it there, because I don't want me to be right. I just want to know what is true, okay? So if you think, oh, you haven't thought about this and it completely crushes what, great. Please come and tell me. That's what I'm asking for, right? So you asked to propose, so answer, propose. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Wally. Anyway, really don't. Have a great night. Thank you so much for joining me. And please do me a favor right now. Please, can you give this a thumbs up right now? Right now? Because I'd love for more people to see this. I want as many people challenging my theory as humanly possible. So if you can give me a thumbs up so that Facebook will then start sharing it with other people. And if you could please share it to other people as well. I would really appreciate that too, if you've got pages and other people, or tag somebody below that you think might be interested in this. And if you're going to challenge me, try not to let your ego make it a personal thing, okay? Because I won't. Okay, I'm not interested in fighting with your ego. All we're trying to do is work out what's real and true, okay? So you don't need to put any emotion into a challenge to the theory. Just spell out the facts and tell me what you think. All right? So I'm not going to challenge you personally, and I hope you don't challenge me personally, because that's boring. It's not interesting. Let's just deal with the facts and see if we can try to put all the pieces together. All right? Have a wonderful night. Thanks so much for watching.